say it needs a prioritization, it needs an estimate, it needs an unambiguous description, and it needs a definition of done, right? Because that is essentially what is required. If I'm supposed to give you an assignment, and you're supposed to do that, then you would need all 4 of these. Because if I didn't give you all 4 of these, you would either, if I didn't give you an estimate, or if we didn't have a prioritization or an estimation, then you would either take longer than I anticipated, and I would get mad, or you would do something that wasn't important where I hoped that you were working on something that was important, or you would have an unambiguous description, and you would do what you think is in my task, but it's not what I wanted, right? So anyway, I need all of these things. So I need to make sure that everything is workable. This is like building a factory plant, right? So every machine on the assembly belt needs to know exactly what it's doing. The input is coming from over there. I know exactly what the interface to this work process is, right? And even if you had those 3, when you're done, you ain't done until you're done. That's an agile joke. You ain't done until you're done, right? So I give you an assignment, and you say that you're done, but you ain't done until you're done, right? So you need to ask me when you're done. I mean, that's kind of a shitty process, because if I have like 10 people working for me, and every of them are doing like 3 tasks every day, then I would have 30 people coming to me every single day asking me, am I done? Am I done? Am I done? It would be more efficient if I could actually, while I give you the assignment, give you the definition of done. Because then you don't have to come and ask me when you're done, because you would be able to read in the task when you're done. That's really, really efficient. All right. Okay, you got me. So every time I do this, you do that. That's cool. Okay. That works. Minimize work in progress. The art of not doing the work that's not necessary to do. I mean, this is how you do factories, right? So the thing is that, this is very much about being able to keep focus, right? If you are going to task switch 10 times a day, then I bet you're not very focused on whatever you're doing, right? So it's kind of mind-blowing, right? That you need to, imagine that you're surgery on a hospital, right? And you're supposed to do surgery on people, and then you're to fill in, and you're supposed to go to, talk to. What happens if you forget something in the stomach of, There's actually was an assessment a couple of years ago saying that we can probably account for roughly 200, people dying in Danish hospitals every single year, just from the fact that people who are supposed to save people's lives in hospitals are task switching, because they're not focused on what they're doing. So conceptually what you want to do is that you want to take a task, and then you want to work on that, and then you want to finish it. And you want to take another task and work on that and finish it. And then you want to take another. Actually, if everyone worked like that, then nobody would have stress. Right? Stress is by definition, it's when you don't achieve what you set out to achieve, right? That's what produces stress in most people. So we are supposed to minimize work in progress. Okay. So the way that we do that is I am the product owner, and whatever project we're making, I will take all the tasks that are workable. So I will take the things on the backlog that interest me. I will make sure that they're groomed so they're workable. If they're not workable, they're not coming onto my sprint log, right? And then I will make sure that we minimize work in progress, and we do that by me as a product owner defining what goes into the next sprint, which could be 2 weeks, a week, 10 days, 8 days, 5 days, 2 days. It could not be 2 years. That is completely out of scope, right? 2 weeks is probably maximum. No sprint in the entire world should run for more than 2 weeks. So because we want the short feedback loop, right? So we want the short feedback loop. So whatever we want to do, we want that to end up being, something that I can show you, and you can give me some feedback, and then we can do another sprint, right? So I designed the sprint, and in the sprint, I'm going to give you a definition of done. So it's basically like going to, if you want to find a guy who can help you renovate your bathroom, right? It's kind of expectation management. I say, okay, I want this bathroom, it's going to look like this, and he says, I can do that. It's going to take me 2 weeks, and it's going to cost you 50,000 Danish kroner, right? So that's kind of the definition of done. right? So what happens if something is broken here, right? What happens if the guy made a miscalculation, right? So he cannot actually do what he promised me to do. So he cannot finish the bathroom in 2 weeks with the tiles that we agreed on for the price that we agreed on. What is he supposed to do? Because this is a legit problem, right? It could happen for anyone, right? So what is he supposed to do? I mean, he got several options, doesn't he? He could just, he could finish it as we agreed, right? So it's going to take longer time. It's going to be more expensive, right? That was one option. Another option is that he could say to me that I am going to finish the date that we actually agreed to finish, right? But I don't know how it's going to look really. So, but the date is the date. I'm going to finish with something, right? Which is kind of an okay approach from the fact that if you want to plan something, you got three different angles in a triangle. You got resources, and you got time, and you got the quality, the result that you're expecting. And if not all of these three are stable, and they are not because you cannot predict the future. So it's a lie to claim that all three angles in the triangle can be stable. So you need to define which one of them are not stable, right? And what we tend to do is that, okay, quality, the content, that is stable. It's not, I mean, this is what I want. But it's actually not how most people want to do their work. Most people would actually say, okay, I would like the feedback on 14 days as we agreed. I would like the budget to not run over. So I'm actually okay with not knowing exactly what I get in 14 days. As long as we just prioritized it correctly, right? So that I say, these are my priorities. I'm going to give you 16 broken down tasks, and I'm going to prioritize them for you. And you say, we will meet again in 14 days, but as long as you can do the ones that are must-have, these are very important, right? Then, if I don't get everything, then the ones that I don't get are the ones that aren't that important, right? This is a good approach. I mean, everyone can do this, and then everyone does that, and then everyone uses estimations, and then everyone says everything is must-have, and then it doesn't work again. So you need to have something in there which is not must-have, right? Makes sense. So every time you plan a sprint, you need to have tasks in there that are must-haves, should-have, could-haves, right? So that you know that if I don't get everything that I ask for, I know exactly what I do get and what I might not get. That's planning. But then I know exactly that we will meet in 2 weeks, and it is going to cost me 50,000 kroner. It makes me far more operational. This is how we want to do software. So we have the definition of done, and then we're producing the minimum viable product. The minimum viable product, that is the smallest product that it makes sense to give from me to you and expect that you get happy smiley faces as end users, right? So the smallest product that it makes sense to claim, we're done with something. I mean, that's a house with a bed, right? The odd house with the bed, right? That's the minimum viable product. Now we proved that we can deliver. We proved that we can use this process. And the guy, he's got a bed to sleep in, right? So we're done with something, right? And then we build on from there. This is agile software. Yeah. We need a microphone. We got a microphone?
Yeah. This is all great. I recognize this a lot from how our own IT department works.
Yeah.
They've just been developing a new system for us for ages. But I noticed that they have this sort of agile planning and work by that, but it doesn't really agree with how we work, the people they're actually going to deliver the system to. Mm-hmm. So they want frequent feedback and workable tasks and everything, but based on the way that we work, we can't always respond as fast, and then we get bad tasks. We don't define done, and we don't define the actual requirements. Yeah. So how can you merge? I mean, if the IT department works like this, but we don't, how should we meet that halfway?
You hire us.
This is I mean, you're going to meet in GitHub, right? So you're going to collaborate. I'm going to show you how to collaborate on GitHub to make sure that But the thing is that if something is broken in the process, it needs to be fixed. And this is a very, very good example of some of the things that software developers know this is not a problem that you solve with software. This is a problem that you solve by communicating with your IT department.
Yeah.
It's very important. I would not even dare to solve that problem using software. You need to communicate with people to solve that specific problem. But the thing is, it's like the anthill, right? If everyone is doing what they're supposed to do, I mean, if everyone is doing the right thing, then the sum of what everyone is doing becomes right, right? But if one of the ants, starts wandering off, I don't know, drinking syrup instead of, building anthills or whatever, the anthill will fall apart, right? So every time you have a process, you assume that everyone who is contributing to the process is following the process. As soon as you have a process defined and somebody is not following the process, then it falls apart. I mean, imagine a Toyota factory plant where they're doing Toyota Avensis, right? And there's a guy there, he's supposed to mount the right mirror, right? But he would rather drink Coca-Cola, right? Or he doesn't get it, so he's mounting the left one or whatever. I mean, it skews up if people are not doing the right thing. So this is like a choreography or a dance. If you want to do the right thing, you need to know what are people supposed to do, right? I'm not a good dancer, but you've seen, everyone can learn to dance. You've seen that on television, right? So it's just rehearsal, right? Just figure out what are the right way to do, and then you'll rehearse it, and if you fail, you'll just, get on your high horse and try it again until you actually get it. Right? So it has some level of belief. This is some of the things that actually software developers do believe in, right? A lot of software developers have this, and when we seem introvert and not, communicating with the rest of the world, it's because they don't get it, right? So we get it. So communicators, the software developers, they work well with software developers because they get it, right?
Okay, thank you.
So you're becoming part of that tribe, right? Okay. So,
tool,
okay.
And it's called the andon. The andon.
So, I'm just going to give that guy a short introduction. He is actually from Toyota. At some point, he's using the abbreviation TPS. He's referring to the Toyota Production System. He's describing a tool called the andon. So he's not Japanese. He's from Kentucky, right? The andon cord. Have you ever heard about the andon cord? No.
You will now.
But they're lucky at Toyota. Okay.
It's a cord that runs throughout.
It's coming.
Now we're lucky in Toyota because we have this very famous tool, and it's called the andon. The andon, it's a cord that runs throughout the entire manufacturing system. And when a defect is seen, or created within your own process, or even you suspect there's something abnormal, you pull the andon. The andon is a system that empowers a team member to stop the line. And why do we stop the line? So you don't pass the defect on to your next process, and ultimately there's no way the customer will receive a defect.
The philosophy, though, is how do I build quality in? The Japanese word is jidoka. It's one of the pillars of TPS, is to build quality in the system. Anytime the line is down, it's costing money. Over time, we're not making cars, there's pressure. So if the group leader or the team leader just rush up and pull the cord and start it up before they ask the team member what's wrong, why'd you pull the cord, the team member is going to get the message pretty soon that maybe pulling the cord's not a smart idea. If you're going to empower people, you have to be strong enough and committed enough to follow your rules and come up and thank the team member for stopping the line. What can I do to help? What's the issue? Okay, we'll get it. Start the line again, perform the repair, and come back and tell the team member, we got it. Thanks a lot. It worked. Reinforcing the behavior that is so critical to building quality in Jidoka.
Okay, so essentially building Toyotas on a factory plant in Japan is actually about empowering people, right? It's about, so it's not about assembly belts, it's about empowering people to do what they're supposed to do, right? And if they don't do that, so you get it, right? So we have a factory plant, and what happens is that I'm the guy that mounts the right mirror, and here comes the car to me, and I'm supposed to mount the right mirror on the car. And then I turn to my short stock, and it says, oh, there aren't any more, right mirrors on my short stock. So I can't do what I'm supposed to do, right? You get that? But you know, the right mirror is kind of, you know, the definition of done on a Toyota. It's very hard to put a Toyota on the street without the right mirror. It's supposed to be there, right? So what am I supposed to do now as the guy who's responsible for mounting the right mirror? I am supposed to stop the factory. Because we cannot produce cars without right mirrors. So I'm literally stopping the entire factory. And somebody is not coming running, yelling at me and say, what are you doing? Why are you stopping the factory? They're coming asking me, okay, what happened? How can we help you? I say, I don't have any more right mirrors. And then they'll go to the stock and figure out why I don't have any more mirrors. But whatever is the problem, they're going to fix it. And they're going to fix it right now, immediately. And they're going to fix it in such a way that they're sure that this particular problem is never going to happen again. And then they're going to start up the factory. This is how you build quality in. If you don't use this approach, then you're gluing it on after it's finished. It's finished. I got a Toyota. Well, it doesn't have the windshield, doesn't have the right mirror. I couldn't find the right wheels. But other than that, it's finished. So now you can glue on the things that are missing, right? And think about it, how many things are actually being built like that, right? Yeah, so we're gluing quality on instead of building it in, right? So this is the factory floor that software developers use to develop software, right? So I get a task, it's groomed, it's workable, I can implement this, right? Hackety, hackety, hack, it works on my computer, I'm done. Then I commit it into my distributed version control system. You have options. You can choose from Git and Mercurial and Bazaar, but then again, there are only so many tools in the entire world that can do that, so you're the right place. You want to use Git, right? And what happens here in the rest of the picture is essentially software implementing the andon code, right? And it's executed by a robot, so it's hands off from here. As a software developer, I don't do anything more. It works on my computer, so I'm done. But you know, the joke, I ain't done until I'm done. So this is my definition of done. So I have implemented my software definition of done as software. So when I said software is going to eat the world, that's true for software as well. So software developers are developing software that software developers are supposed to use when they test if their software development is working. That's what we do. That's what we specialized in Pragma, is that we build this thing that software developers use to verify their software with. And we can do integration, we can do build, we can do analysis and metrics and deployment, and we can do anything. At some point, if something doesn't work, it's like pulling the andon, right? Oh, we're supposed to have a functional regression test that works without error. We don't. So we pull the andon. And then we're not done. So I know what I'm supposed to do at this point. I'm supposed to fix the functional regression test and then push it again. It's pretty easy. Imagine if every software developer had a pipeline like this. Then there would be no more apps in your iPhones that didn't work. That's true. That's a true statement. So when you get software that's shitty and doesn't work, it's because the software developer who invented it didn't work like this. So everyone wants to work like this. This is far more complicated than it looks in our poster. But like you will all be driving electrical cars in 10 years, you will all be developing software using pipelines in 10 years. And that's the truth, Ruth. Right? So we will actually end up having software that works sometime in the future. Yeah. So if I'm going to optimize the factory floor, I will be looking at unplanned work and queued work. Those are the two most essential things to look for. So yeah, just go to... So, sorry. The unplanned work, if I try to identify my prioritization on a task, I'm going to give you a task, right? I have two different variants of prioritization I can use. I can say urgency or importance, right? But what happens if I don't plan my work? It's by human nature. If I don't plan my work, I will end up using urgency as my prioritization. That's the truth. Right? So anything that's urgent, I need to do that before anything that is not urgent. But if I plan my work, I can actually start doing things that are important, right? So, and obviously I colored them for you, right? So if I were supposed to ask you, where would you rather be, right? Where would you rather be when you were working? Question. Red or green? Green. Do you all agree, right? Of course you do. We don't want to work on something, I mean, not urgent, not important, obviously nobody would work here, right? So not urgent, but important. But actually I want that piece of work done, right? It's not urgent, as in I need it today, but it is important, so I need that piece of work done. The thing is, if you don't plan, you will be working up here your entire life. And you will be stressed, and you will produce software that doesn't work. So planning is the key to software that works. Right? So, let's see how that works. Works in Kanban. To do, doing, done. That's just me controlling the bottleneck, right? I'm going to minimize work in progress. So imagine that you're 4 people in a team. What you're going to do is that you say, so imagine that you have post-it notes on a whiteboard with 3 lanes in it saying to do, doing, done, right? And then imagine that you would draw like, so you would say to do, doing, done. And then since we're 4 people in the team, I would say I have room for 4 post-it notes in the, all right? I have room for 4 post-it notes in the doing column, right? Which means that whatever goes in here would then have to go to done or back to do, right? Because I have 4 people and they can only work on one thing at a time, right? This is Kanban, right? Whatever you do, you finish that before you start something else. Right? That's well done. So, essentially, now we're closing in on GitHub issues, right? So GitHub issues, that is essentially a way of organizing your post-it notes. So instead of using post-it notes on a whiteboard, you just use issues on GitHub. But they're essentially as simple as that, right? So they have a header, and then they have a description, and then they have a log of all the comments that anybody who wants to comment all your post-it notes, they can add in there. That's easy. It's all you ever need, right? So I could have built the, maybe not the Øresundsbridge, because that's a construction site, right? But we could have built Rejsekortet using nothing but post-it notes and computers, right? That's what I claim. You don't need anything in that planning process in that. But it actually makes it interesting to put it on GitHub, because then I can share it with people in Cape Town and Stockholm. And right? So it becomes an asynchronous communication tool for planning work. That's cool, all right? We have the sizes. A size 1, that's a briefing. Basically, that's just a discussion point, right? So we're discussing issues. I'm not working on it. It's not groomed for working, right? But these are potentially groomed for working. So they're size small, medium, large, and too big. And the way that we use them, small, that's about an hour work. Medium, you should be able to do 3 or 4 of them per day. So that's somewhere between 2 and 3 hours. If it exceeds 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of work, then we're going into large. And that could actually go up till a whole day's of work, right? But if whatever you want to do is estimated to take more than 8 hours of work of your efficient time that given Thursday, then it's too big. It needs to be broken down even further. That's the size of task that we're looking for. Something that you could finish a couple of tasks every single day. The amount of endorphin released in your body every time you finish a task is enough to actually cure depression by working like this. Because every time you finish an assignment, you actually say, yeah, got it, we never lose, right? But that is actually true. You get that feeling every time you finish something that you set out to finish. That is why you get stressed for not finishing anything in your entire life, because you never get that endorphin rush. So we have built a process where we get higher in endorphin because we finish something every day, every single day, right? Yes, 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 right? So that's how you want to work. Okay, so these are actually set by the software developers because they know how much time is needed. It's like me asking that guy who needs to finish my bathroom. I'm going to ask him, how long time does it take? And he says, it's going to take me 7 days. I say, I think it's going to take you 2 days. But I cannot say that, right? He's the expert. Right? He's the guy who knows how to, renovate bathrooms. So he knows how long time it's going to take. So the person doing the work is going to do the estimate. I own the product. So I'm going to use the red labels. I'm going to say, how important is this on a scale from 1 to 4? Must have, should have, could have, won't have, right? So a task needs both a blue label and a red label in order to be groomed, right? So the software developer needs to estimate how much time it takes, and the product owner needs to say how badly he wants it. And they're, you know, siloed, right? I cannot do the blue ones, he cannot do the red ones. So we need to collaborate, right? We're enforced to do that. And then the other ones are basically just flagging different processes. I'm going to show you that. The green ones are basically saying, oh, we're in a bad state, right? So right now, I probably ended up in a situation where it turns out that it wasn't groomed, right? So at this point, I would like it to be groomed, or I think I'm done, but I'm not sure I'm done. So obviously, the definition of done wasn't quite well enough. So at this point, I'm going to put it, give it a green label, and assign it to somebody else who will then pick it up, because green labels on tasks are like pulling the andon cord. So anything wearing a green label is essentially a blocker, right? Because I cannot do anything right now, right? Because I'm in a position where I need a feedback, or I need a better groomed task. You get it? Yeah? Ish. Okay. So, what you all can do actually, if you want to follow along, you can actually follow along at this point. So you can fire up my website, which is your website. It's your slide deck. So you can take this repository that we're using, I've just been using to produce this, and you can actually go in and say, Pragma Librarian, and then you go in and fork it, and then you can actually enable the GitHub pages, and then you can fire it up and use it. Let me show you.
A quick note on forking. Forking is a button you'll find on the top right corner of any repository that is, well, even if it's
I'm going to show you.
He's going to show you. It's just copying, really.
All right. So, or you don't have to follow along, but because the recipe is right there, right? So what I want to do here is that I can go in here, and then there is, you know, I can fork it, right? So what happens when I fork a repository? Right now, this repository is in the Pragma organization called Librarian. If I fork it, it will say, okay, of all the accounts that I have access to on, so I have access to a lot, but it says, where do you want to take it, right? So I could take it to, I couldn't take it to the one that I wanted to take it to.
Because you already have it there.
I already have, sorry, I already forked it to my, but you see here, I already forked it to my user, Lars Kruse, that's me, right? So that's my personal user account. So we can actually just go and, so I say, oh, I forgot, I don't need to fork this, right? But what you would do in this situation is that you would probably only have one user here, maybe two if you have an organization, I don't know. But you would pick your user, and you say, that is the user that I want to fork, and then you would fork it. And then you would end up a place like this. So this is now the same repository. It's a clone. So a clone is a clone, right? So I cloned all the files. Now they're in my organization, right? Now I can do with them with what I want. And if I wanted to change something, I could ask Pragma to take it back, right? I fixed a couple of spelling errors. Please take them back, right? So that's one way of collaborating, right? People can see your code, but they cannot commit to your code. But they can copy your code and change the code and then show the code to the software developer that they copied from and say, I made these. So we're actually doing it, right? We're actually making changes by showing them instead of talking about them. It's pretty cool. Collaboration, right? At this point, you just go into settings and make sure that these GitHub issues pages are actually set up. Which means that at this point, I would be able to go to another website. And hey ho, I don't know if, I mean, this is kind of a, but I'm actually serving it now from a different website, right? So the whole slide deck is now copied so that I have access to it. So now, if you do the same, then the slide deck that I just showed you, that I just used here for the past, 40 minutes, that's now yours. And you can do with it what you want, right? Because it's open source. the reason why you can do that is because I open sourced it, so you're allowed to do it. It's my gift to you. Well, here you are, right? So you can do it.
If anyone needs help setting that up, just raise your hand and I'll be right along.
But the thing is that, what? They'll do
Or
it
we
later
can do
today.
it later
That's
today,
very
yes.
good. That's
We'll be
very
setting
good.
up GitHub pages.
All right, so they're going to set up GitHub pages later today. That's good. So the thing is that if I am to browse into that, sorry, github.com, Lars Kruse, Librarian, I don't know what's happening here. That one, that's where I wanted to go. All right. So in here, there is a folder called Librarian's Code. In Librarian's Code, I have a resource folder, basically all the images that I showed you. I have an index HTML, which is just basically bootstrapping everything. But the majority of what I just showed you is actually in a Markdown file. You know Markdown? Okay, so you're going to teach them Markdown?
They've done a little bit of Markdown.
Okay, so you're experts. Markdown is code. That's true. Markdown is code. Markdown is actually a joke, right? Because Markdown is a markup language. Markup language means that you can actually put features into written text so that they start doing things, showing pictures and doing links. That's called a markup language. The one that you probably know is called HTML, but there are plenty of them. Okay? Markdown is another version of a markup language. It's the drilled down version of a markup language. It's a joke. Markdown. Right? So it's a drilled down version of markup. So it's the simplest markup language that you could ever, come across. That would be Markdown. It's code. We cannot run from the fact that it's code. So if you are writing your documentation or your slides or your websites in Markdown, then you are by definition software developers. Yeah. All right. But we could go in here and hack a lot of shit, right? So if we wanted to do that. Let me just take you through the rest of the slide real quick. Because what I'm showing you, are you going to show them some reveal later? Kind of reveal-ish?
Where the hell did Jan go? That's his
Okay, but reveal is like, the real is the technology that I'm using to make the slides show just from Markdown. So it's just basically a technology, right? So it's like you say, you want to go here, you can go there, by a car or a taxi, but if you want to show slides, you can do that by reveal, right? It's just a tool. It's actually an open source repository on Git, and I'm using it, right? And you're free to go and hack my repository if you fork it, right? You can't hack the other one because that's mine, right? I'm the product owner, right? But there are a lot of tricks that you can do in Reveal, right? So these are just links to the documentation and some samples. So these are fragments so these are things that I can do I can grow and shrink text and fade out and fade in. So here's an example of actually, I can grow it, I can shrink it, I can fade it out, I can come from up, from down, left and right, and I can highlight and make visible, right? There are all kinds of things that I can do. These are just features that I actually just implemented in my Markdown, right? So essentially, you should go read the Markdown file, right? Start hacking that. Because they're all in there. And then you have all kinds of transitions that you can use. If I go to the that's a link. So when you get it, you can actually do that link. The cool thing about this is that this is the Markdown. My internet is not that fast. I have to admit that. All right. So you see, now I'm just sliding. If I click on fade, I can fade. If I click on slide, it starts doing a different convex, and it doesn't do anything. Oh, it's still loading. Sorry, it's the JavaScript. You can do that, right? It's not loading very fast. So you see that now I got a nice feature, right? Now it's kind of turning in convex. I can make that do concave instead, right? So it's like Now it's coming, I mean, you see the difference? It's kind of like that or like that. I mean, so they're all kind of cool effects. You can make some really nice slide decks using nothing but Markdown, storing it as version controlled files in GitHub, sharing it with your colleagues. That's code. If I wanted to look at, let me show you this is our website in Pragma. Not very, oh, damn. But this is also written in Markdown. So we're just using another technology called Jekyll, which is essentially the technology that GitHub Pages is using. But this is also written entirely in Markdown. It's actually open source. You can go and look at our website, and you can even fork it, and that would be phishing. You shouldn't do that, right? I mean, but you could be inspired from it, right? But this is actually on the web. If I go in here and I say pragma.com, sorry, github.com/pragma.
We actually used that this morning to take a look at our first repository.
Okay, cool. Then you would see that we have a lot of files in here, and they're actually Markdown. So if I go and find the issues, I have all the issues that were, so this is an individual reusable component, right? This is a piece of software. And if everyone wants to contribute to this piece of software, the way that they do that is either by pushing something that we can then pull, or it's by going in and adding something saying, okay, I would really like to see this happen, right? So what we have is that we have a milestone, kind of a milestone we call it content update. What's interesting about this is these are like things that really should be done it's almost like pulling the end on, right? Because these are things that, there are spelling errors, there are things that should be fixed, right? Things that we found on the website that should be fixed. So I can go and fix one of these. I can go and say, we have this on the About Us page. It's my colleague Andre from Stockholm saying, okay, during the first years, and say, okay, but actually, this is an old text because we have now been here for 5 years. Okay, so that 7 needs to become a 5. So I can go, so it's right here on the internet. Right, 7, right? And we're on pragma.com on the About page, says 7 years, that's not true, it should say 9. So what I can do is that I can actually go in, and clone the...
Oh, you might want to make that terminal a bit bigger if you can, yeah.
So what I have done now is that I have basically...
you have the repository locally on your computer, which is something that will be...
I have cloned the repository to my computer, right? So instead of just looking at them on the website, what I've done is that I have taken the files so that they're now physically on my computer. But I still have the GitHub there, right? So it's the command that says git clone, and then what repository you want to clone, and then the files end up on my computer. So now I have access to them on my computer. I think that the majority of the day you'll be working from the website. I could do that as well, but at this point, I just want to show you that.
They've already seen that, so they would just get bored.
All right, okay, they would be perfect. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you some real cool stuff then, because this is issue number 322, right? 322. Remember that, 322. So I want to say git work on 322. So why does this work? I mean, I'm in the context of my Git repository, and my issues are in the context of my Git repository. So when I do that, I mean, we made some clever scripting, right? But then you could do that as well. You're software developers, right? Or you could hack our scripts. They're open source. So what I'm doing here is that I'm essentially making sure that my local copy is clean and fresh. So I'm pulling all the information, making sure that I'm not taking offsetting something that is old, right? Because I might not have been working with it for a long time. And then what it does is that it says, okay, you got an issue that's priority 2, it's size small, it's in progress. Actually, I just made it in progress. The fact that I opened it made it in progress. What if I could see my issues as if they were in a list like a Kanban board? That would be cool, right? Actually, there is a tool that can do that. A tool on top of, so I just need to know that I'm in pragma.com, my organization and my repository. If I then go and say waffle.io, it's just a tool on the internet. It's free, right? You can use it or don't use it. What's interesting about this tool is that it will take all the information that you already have in your GitHub repository in GitHub issues, and then it will show you as if it was a Kanban board. So I just need to log in here. Kind of not that happy with the internet connection here, to be honest. Yeah, it's down where. But essentially, it follows the same pattern. Isn't this interesting? What I'm looking at now is actually all the issues that I already have in my GitHub issue set up, looking at them through Waffle. So Waffle doesn't do anything with them. It just displays them in a different way. But now they have literally become things that I can drag and drop, right? And 3, 5, 6 is in progress, so it's down here somewhere, right? Right here, it is. It sits right here, so I'm working on it, right? Right now I'm working on it. Let's go back and fix it. So at this point, I want to open it. So, and how do I want to open it? You know Atom? That's the editor that we use when we hack files locally, at least if they're Markdown files. I mean, they could be used for a lot of things, but we use it for Markdown at least. It's very good. So it's going to open Atom. It's going to show me the content of these folders. It's going to be the same structure that I already saw on, because it's the same directory, right? So I'm going to find the pages, the about pages, and then I'm going to find the, so sorry, it's down here, about, Markdown. There it is, right? My 7, you see it? Right. So I'm going to change that to 9. And then I'm going to save it. I could at this point actually fire up my local. So if I do that, so I say right here, I could say Jekyll serve. So Jekyll is the tool that GitHub Pages uses to make the Markdown look like a website. I could just install that tool on my computer, which I actually did. And then I could just say Jekyll serve from my local computer, which means that it will fire up a website based on the files that I currently have on my directory. You get it? And then when it's done with that, building all the HTML, I would be able to actually go and browse my website. As you see, it says that I'm on my local host, 127.0.0.1. That's my local host. If I go and browse the local host, port 4000, I get the website. So actually I get the same. So now I have my website up and running on my computer. I'm the only one in the entire world that can see it. It only runs on that specific computer. But I have a full copy running. So what I could do now is that I could go and say, am I done? Yes. It says 9, right? So at this point, it works on my computer. Now I just want it to work in the rest of the real world. So what I'm doing is basically I'm going back to my I'm going to shut that one down again. And then I'm going to git wrap up. I assume that wrap up is a good command here because whatever I'm doing, I'm done with it. So I'm done. I'm wrapping up, right? So you can see that if I say git status, you can see I have one file in here that is modified, right? The page about Markdown, right? So that is modified. So if I do git wrap up, it's not a command that exists. It's one that we created, but again, you could copy it, right? It's open source. So at this point, essentially, what it did is that it took my commits and added them and committed it. So if I go and say git status, then there's nothing except that I have a commit now. You see that? there's no outstanding work because now I committed it to my local GitHub, right? So now my local GitHub, before I showed you just my workspace, right? So I didn't touch Git yet. So this is the first time I actually used the Git command. Now I added the change to my local commit, which means that at this point, my local commit is one commit ahead of the one that I want to be part of. You get that? It's what it says. I don't have any outstanding work. It doesn't say that you have modified this, but it says that you are ahead of a region pages. So what I do is that, okay, git deliver. That's also a command that we created. But this is kind of, you might say, welcome to the hamster wheel, right? Git work on, git wrap up, git deliver. Git work on, git wrap up, git deliver. Git work on, git wrap up, git deliver. That's it. That's my entire world. The only thing I need is tasks coming in, fixing them, delivering them. To do, doing, done. To do, doing, done. To do, doing, done. Right? That's software. And now it says that it's delivered. And actually, I have a whole battery of tests. So what it does right now is actually it goes to a Jenkins server. You don't know what Jenkins is, but that's a robot on the picture before. A whole battery of tests that would actually take this commit and see if I'm okay with blah, blah, and blah, blah. Did I add files that were too big? Did I have broken links? Did I have anything? Did I do any spelling errors, right? I don't want to, I want to ask you to do that because that would be a queue for me waiting for you to do it, and that would be unplanned work on you because you would stop doing what you're doing and start reviewing my code. I can program that, right? So I did. At this point, Jenkins, I hope, is done by testing and saying, so Jenkins is testing my done, right? I'm done, and Jenkins says, yes, you're done, right? So the robot in the background that runs somewhere in the cloud is now done. So if I go and browse the not my local host, but the real one. Come on. Ta-da! I don't know if you're impressed, but the thing is that, I mean, I just managed to put a 9 on the internet, and before it was 7. We never lose. So, but the thing is really that this process, I mean, and if you trust me, that there actually was a robot in the background testing that I didn't have any spelling errors, I didn't have any files that were too big, I didn't have any dead links on my website. So, so now I know it works, and I didn't involve any people at all because I programmed my verification, right? And I planned my work, and I used GitHub for all that. So now you know a little bit about Markdown files that can produce websites. You know a little bit about Markdown files that can produce, slide decks on the internet. You know a little bit about the work process that we're using. So, so this is our world. And if you go back to the slide deck and click on the I just want to say it was code pragma.com/librarian. Yeah, I just want to. I'm done. I just want to show you why this loads. I'm going to take a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, hello.
Hang on here.
So I speak to this one instead. Okay, so it looked like when you delivered, it created a new branch.
Yes.
Did you then have you set it up so when Jenkins is green, it merges back to the master branch?
Yes.
Okay.
So everything is actually automated. So what happens is that when I push deliver, right? So it's true that the few commands that I created, the work on, the wrap up, and the deliver, right? So when I say work on, what it does is that, okay, you want to work on 322. So what it does is that it goes up and communicates with GitHub and says, this guy claims there is an issue that's called 322. And it asks GitHub, is that true? And say, yes, there is a GitHub issue. It's called blah, 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 blah. Okay, blah, 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 blah. That's probably a good name for a branch, though, because that is a specific name problem that I'm trying to solve. So what it does is that it takes that name and strips off all the white spaces and replaces them with dashes. And so now I got a pretty good branch name. And then it creates a branch, that refers to my issue. right? And then I'm working on that specific branch. And then, because that includes the issue number 322, so when I say wrap up and deliver, what it does is that it pushes that one into the GitHub, the Jenkins, which will then clone it to a slave, run the tests, verify that it works. If it works, it will push it to a region, make it online. If it doesn't work, it would send me a mail saying this doesn't work, right? But the whole thing is that it also mentions that this is now closing the issue 322, which is kind of a magic keyword in my Git commit. I set that up. So what happens if you go to the waffle board, you will actually see that what happened? Who moved it to done? Who did that? I did that when I did the git command saying deliver. Because in my git command, I actually added the issue saying we can look at this issue specifically on GitHub, saying that I actually added a commit. I added a commit that says, you're going to close issue number 322, update about us page. Okay, and then GitHub is saying, okay, this guy's closing it. So GitHub is actually closing it for me because I put that specific keyword in there. So it's, and Waffle just shows what is, on GitHub. So the fact that the issue is now closed moves it to the next. So I get my Kanban for free. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yes, I'm done. I don't have anything more except that there are a lot of good links in the slide decks that you will be able to browse, right? Pragma.com/librarian, that's my slide deck. Go in there, investigate it, go, fork our Git and hack it.